All right, good morning. Today I will be going over what working memory is, what we use it for, and two schools of thought that are highly debated within the psychology community as well as the cognitive hearing science community. And my name is Erin Lynch. Okay, so first we have Alan Baddeley, who worked with his colleague Graham Hitch to develop the multi-component model. And within this model, it talks about an overarching central executive system that helps run two, they call them subset or slave systems of the visuospatial sketchpad and the phonological loop. He then later, in 2004, added what is known as the episodic buffer. And in some upcoming slides, we'll discuss what each one of those processes does. On the other hand, we have Nelson Cowan, who in the late 90s and early 2000s developed the embedded processes model. And instead of allocating different responsibilities to subsystems, Nelson Cowan really looked at how all of these working memory components worked together. So before we get into each model individually, working memory in general is our cognitive process that is responsible for brief storage, processing, and manipulation over time. It is important to note that working memory does not equal short-term memory, and working memory does not equal long-term memory. So our short-term memories are the brief here and now that last about a minute or two, while working memory operates over a few seconds. And long-term memory refers to those memories that we've had since we were little kiddos or that we develop as we grow up. So when we get to Baddeley's multiple component model, we have our central executive, which has all of our attention allocation and executive process allocation. And all that means is it works to tell our visuospatial sketchpad and our phonological loop when to work and when to operate. If communication needs to happen between these two, we have our episodic buffer. So all verbal information goes to your phonological loop, so what we hear, and everything that we see and maps go into your visuospatial sketchpad. If we go to the embedded processes model, what Cowan suggests is that we have a little bit of focal attention. And our focal attention identifies what's important in our environments. So if we're driving a car and we see a pedestrian, our focal attention knows that there's a pedestrian and adjusts our behavior. Should new information be introduced to your focal attention, it now goes into your activated subset of long-term memory. So instead of putting it into a visuospatial sketchpad or a phonological loop, it just becomes our activated portion of our long-term memory. Cowan also integrates long-term memory with his working memory model, and with this, anything that's in your focal attention that's identified as important goes into your activated subset, and if it's still important, then it goes to long-term memory. Or if you've seen that pedestrian and you identify them as your friend, that comes from your long-term memory, goes into your activated subset, and then will go in your focal attention if you were to act on it. So how do we use our working memory? We take everyday objects that are new or not new, and we can either manipulate them into new thoughts or ideas, connect them to our long-term memory, or bring them back. Thank you. I hope you use your working memory for some good